Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September 23rd, 2020 Abington Finance Committee meeting. We are meeting in preparation for the special town meeting that will be held on October 19th, 2020. We have a very straightforward agenda tonight. We are going over our recommendations for the warrant articles for the special town meeting. We'll run through liaison reports, correspondence, and review of minutes. We are scheduled to meet again next week to see if there's anything that we would need to go over again, any fine tuning or anything of that sort before our recommendations have to be officially printed and sent out. That is our agenda for tonight. I think we can get right to it unless anybody has any objections. I can only see half of you right now. Hang on, I'm trying to expand my view. All right, I can see all of you. I don't see any objections, so we can get right to it. We'll switch my screen sharing over to the warrant. There it is. Okay, can everyone see the warrant?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, so we have through over two meetings now discussed all of the warrant articles. I will start by asking Sue if there are any substantive changes to the warrant since last week.
No, there haven't been.
All right, that's good to hear. So we will head right in with article number 1, which we have discussed both for this special town meeting, and we discussed it quite a bit for the annual town meeting. This is the repairs needed for the bridge. As we've said, leading up to the annual town meeting in May, we were told the DPW Chief John Stone thought that the repairs were not needed at this time. Looking at it in the months in between, is there any
Is it
discussion?
just me, or is Matt kind of broken up?
Can everyone still hear me?
You're breaking up a little bit, Matt.
All right.
Hang on a minute. Let me try to move to a more stable location with my internet. People still hear me?
Yeah.
Hear me?
Yep.
I'm gonna move to a location closer to the Wi-Fi router. I'm not really sure why I'm having problems. There's nobody else home right now.
You're still a little broken up on my end, Matt.
Turning off my Wi-Fi. So
Yeah, you keep freezing.
hold on a second. Let me disconnect my headset and just go with the computer audio. Can you hear me any better now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So let me share the screen again. Can everyone see the warrant?
Yeah.
All right. So as I was saying, when my internet decided to crap out on me, we will start right in with Article 1, which is the Central Street Bridge. Repairs we were told were needed, then weren't needed, now are needed again. Or the immediacy of them has cropped back up. Is there a motion, and then we'll have discussion on Article 1?
Motion to approve or whatever, is that the right word?
Yep.
Second. For discussion.
Is there discussion on Article 1?
Missed the last meeting. What was the most current update from John Stone?
There was nothing new as of the last meeting. I don't know if Sue has anything different, but the last information that we had was that based off of what had been looked at, more recently, the repairs to the bridge were more imminently necessary than were thought in the lead up to town meeting.
Okay.
That is correct. And also this will be a borrowing item. So if you want to put it in your motion, it is to borrow.
Any further questions or discussion? See, mostly heads shaking. Without any further discussion, all those in favor of the motion to approve Article 1, please raise your hands. All those opposed? Abstaining? It is unanimous.
Matt, for purposes of the notes, meeting notes and bookkeeping, do you want to, should we ask to change the motion to a borrowing for the wording?
So what we have done, and this was something we did discuss last week, we discuss and we vote on the motions to approve or pass over the articles, and then in the wording of the article itself is ambiguous as to how it is, and then in the recommendation we will have the wording for the specifics of where the money will come from it. So in this case, in the recommendation, we'll put that we recommend to borrow.
Okay.
That's right, Sue?
That's correct.
And that's what we've done at least the last couple of town meetings. So. Sorry, hold on one second. To make sure nobody walks into the room that I'm in now. Okay. All right. So any further question there on Article 1? Does that cover it, Barbara?
Yep. Yep.
Not any further questions. Articles 2, 3, and 4 are all road acceptance articles. We have been discussing each of we've been discussing these as a group, both in lead up to annual town meeting before we decided to push them out, and now in lead up to this special town meeting. Do we want to take a motion to take on all three of these as a group?
Yes.
Motion to recommend.
Articles 2, 3, 4.
So are we just okay, so hang on, there's a motion by Joe.
Can we just defer to the planning committee or the zoning committee?
So I think
Or do we have
because
to make
these,
a recommendation to approve?
I think because these are petition articles, we don't have a specific committee to defer to. We would essentially defer to the Board of Selectmen.
But there's no financial impact either way.
There is at least minimal financial impact because the town then now, as we discussed last week, the town now has to plow those
They
roads,
plow them and upkeep them.
support them, but it's a very minimal, and it's typically not an article that the finance committee has essentially the purview over.
Right.
Um, So my question, when we had a motion and a second, do we have a second for Joe's motion, by the way?
I'll
I'll second.
second.
Okay, several seconds. I'm giving it to Barbara because I heard her first. Sorry, Russ.
No, Barbara.
So
no doubt.
my suggestion was going to be that we defer to the Board of Selectmen. And I wanted to check with either Sue or Scott tonight to make sure that that was the right motion there. And technically we can recommend, but it's really more Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, I would say to defer to the Board of Selectmen because they did have to have a public hearing meeting on them. So they would be the most up to date on what's appropriate.
So if someone wants to have a second motion, we can then vote on it, right?
Yeah, so Joe, do you want to change your motion or do you want to retract your motion or do you want us to vote on your motion?
I'll change my motion to defer to the Board of Selectmen.
And I'll second
So Barbara will,
3 and 4 grouped together.
Yeah, 2, 3, 4.
all right. Any further discussion? Without any, all those in favor of deferring to the Board of Selectmen? All those opposed, abstaining, it is unanimous. All right. In efforts to continue to be efficient, grouping Articles 5 through 14 now. These are all planning board articles that, again, are not in the area of financial impact to the town. They're mostly clarifications or definitions. As you can see, Article 6, we're defining what a swimming pool is. Very interesting things to have to do for local town government, but not particularly financial things that need to be done. You can see Article 9 as I'm scrolling changes the definition of something from a maximum distance of 50 feet to 100 feet. Not really a financial impact there. So for Articles 5 through 14, this is another area where I would look for us to group them together unless anyone has objections.
Motion to defer to the planning board for Articles 5 through 14.
Second.
A motion to defer to the planning board and a second. Is there any discussion on these? Without any, all those in favor of deferring to the planning board? All those opposed? Abstaining? It is unanimous. Article 15 is the stormwater bylaw. This is another, we have talked in the last couple of town meetings. We've funded the MS4 stormwater regulation requirements from the state. This is the bylaw that essentially puts into place the rules at the local level. Again, this is something we have already dealt with the finances of. This is just adding the bylaws to it. As you can see, it's a lot of words. It's very long. But again, it's planning board. I kept this one out separate because it is something that we have in the past dealt with the finances for. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear to everyone on the committee and also to anyone that might be watching or listening, why that we're not just lumping it in with the rest. And then I wanted to make sure that we were taking it appropriately. However, there is, as best we can tell, this particular article does not have financial implication.
Motion to defer to the planning board for Article 15.
So motion
Second.
is second. There is from Russ. Thank you. Is there any further discussion on Article 15? No further discussion. All those in favor of deferring to the planning board for Article 15? All those opposed? Justin, I couldn't tell if that was delayed or opposed.
Not opposed. I'm for.
Wasn't sure if you wanted us to take this on, make a stand one way or another.
I think we need a deep dive on this one, paragraph by paragraph.
Word by word.
Yeah, we got the time tonight.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Now we're getting into some of the articles that we're actually going to make a recommendation on one way or another. Article 16 is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer available funds, or otherwise borrow, or otherwise provide. As you can see, we have all of the possible options in the wording there. The sum of $68,000 to fund the bio package in the agreement that was made between the Board of Selectmen and the police chief, or take any other action relative thereto.
I think
Motion
we
to
had
approve
talked
Article
about.
16. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I thought we talked about changing the word buyout, because isn't it related to a retirement as opposed to? I think the wording is. We talked about changing it.
I think
To make it less sort of
I think last week, Sue, we did discuss the wording of that, and I don't remember exactly what was.
We have that out to our label council to check on the actual better wording for it. But so it might change a little bit, but the dollar amount's not going to change.
Yep. So Russ, I believe you were starting to say something.
Yeah, motion to approve Article 16 in the dollar amount of $68,000.
Second.
Any discussion on this? For
Just-
those, oh, go ahead.
Just curious, do we know how we're going to pay for it?
So
those
this, and Sue, correct me if I'm wrong, this is coming out of the, this would be coming out of essentially the general fund, but the money coming in from the state that is over what we estimated the state money to be.
That is correct. This portion of what was needed is coming out of that extra state money that we're getting.
And just so everyone is aware that that is the funding source that we are looking at for articles, for this article, for Article 17, 18, 19. Sue, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think 20 was, or is 20? That's the senior center.
20 is coming from that program income account that the
That's what I thought. So
original
not 20, but yes for 27 and 28, which is the school money and the injury settlement. So when we get to each of those are all dealing with money coming from the state that was more than what we estimated, as we discussed at the beginning of the special town meeting process. And for anyone that's listening tonight and not familiar, we estimated that the state, the income that the town received from state aid would be approximately 10% down from what it was last year, because we still didn't know the numbers from the state at the time that we went to annual town meeting. The state came back and said that they would match the amounts from last year. So we had about 10% worth of money to over what we estimated. We're taking about half of that, which is about 600,000, and using that to make up for overestimating local receipts and local revenue based on what happened over the last several months with COVID, and the estimates that we had made being more than what was actually coming in based on fiscal year 20's numbers, which left us with about $600,000. And so now we're determining in what ways and what amounts we use that.
I keep going
Chris?
back to the estimate that the 600,000 that we used is for fiscal year 20.
No.
And no,
So Sorry to jump quickly, but
No,
I
that's okay.
think I wrapped my brain around this last time when we spent a lot of time going through
Yeah.
it. So I want to just kind of
Mm.
jump. What happened was the actual receipts for fiscal year 20 were down, which we determined once we closed the books on fiscal year 20. We had the revenue within fiscal year 20 to cover all of our bills, all of our line items, despite receipts being down. However, the estimates that we had made when planning out the fiscal year 21 budget were based on the revenue from the projections of the year out at the time that we had them for fiscal year 20. Because of the way that the revenue was down in fiscal year 20, in the end, the estimates for fiscal year 21 were higher than what we're now expecting to bring in by about 600,000. So we're looking at about $600,000 from the state aid to go to cover not receiving as much from local receipts. Does that make sense?
Yes, if we ended fiscal year 20 even, then it makes sense.
Yep, we did. Sue, that whole explanation is correct to you, and we did end fiscal year 20 even, or even.
You did a good job. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And even's not even right, because we will have application for like applying for free cash.
Yeah, right.
So does that make sense to everyone? Because I know we spent an awful lot of time on it the last couple of meetings, and like I said, I think I finally wrapped my brain around it at the end of last meeting. So, all right.
We
Oh,
never
go
get
ahead,
to
Chris.
see the actual. That's one of my things that I just can't understand how we never get to see the actual, the end result, but that's okay. That's the way it works. That's the way it works.
So I think that that's something that with the proper amount of time to prepare that Sue could provide. The system that we use doesn't make it easy for her to provide it to us without actually providing us access to the system. Is that right, Sue?
That's correct. That and the way we set the recap is based on our 20 revenues and how much we can say we are estimating for 21. So Chris, you're welcome to come into my office anytime and I can show you that documentation and how it all gets put together. It's not something that's easy to explain over video.
No, yeah, I understand the projection. I just mean most entities can tell at the end of a fiscal year what they spent and the revenue that came in. And we don't seem to get that.
So like I said, and I think this is what Sue was offering,
Yeah.
Sue has the monies spent and the revenue that came in. It's just difficult to present it in either a spreadsheet format or paper format that's easy enough for us to see and tell. The system itself that we use, that Barbara was on, at least, I'm not sure if anyone else was, when we switched over to the new system and paid a pretty good chunk of change for the new system. It's not the most friendly at exporting stuff out of the system.
I think that we can see when we go over with departments, you can see each department what expended, the prior each department, but it doesn't come over to us as one big number in an easy to understand format. And it used to, it doesn't with the new system.
My advice, Chris, would be to take Sue up on the offer to go in and look at the system and the numbers. So I think that's definitely worthwhile.
All right, good. No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Which brings us back to Article 16 and the settlement with the police chief and the retirement of the police chief. Do we have any further discussion specific to Article 16? Without any, all those in favor of the motion to approve Article 16? All those opposed? Abstaining? One abstention. It is approved. All right, Article 17 is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a transfer available funds, borrow or otherwise provide the sum of $15,000 to fund a temporary position in the Board of Health to assist with regulation oversight and other administrative functions, or take any other action relative thereto. This is another one that we need the wording finalized on. This is taking a part-time position and bringing it up to full-time for the rest of this fiscal year. And we will deal with whether or not that continues past this fiscal year in next year's annual budget.
They were going to
Motion.
add the temporary, right? Sue?
You
Yes,
broke up
it's gonna
a
say,
little bit.
it's gonna say add temporary full-time position from a part-time position.
Thank you.
Motion to recommend.
Second?
Didn't we say this was going to be a thing going forward? That's what I thought.
So this is likely to be a thing going forward. However, for the purposes of this particular article and this particular meeting, we're just dealing with now till the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah, I just would,
But
if the
yes.
updated wording takes away a temporary position, I think that's fine.
Yep. Any further discussion? I do think that's a good point, Greg.
So do we want to remove the temporary?
If this is for a person who's already is becoming full time, is it really temp? I have no idea. Obviously, I'm not really in the stuff. So if it's temporary, then leave it. If it's not temporary, then no.
Well,
So
sorry, Matt, go ahead.
yeah. So sorry, Sue. My inclination would be for the article to be worded to increase a part-time position to full-time for the remainder of fiscal year 21. Because that's really what the article is doing. And we'll, like, if we're keeping this person this position as a full-time position past fiscal year 21, we'll be dealing with that over the course of the next budget.
Mm-hmm.
We won't know that now, or like they'll be looking at the situation in the world and the.
Yeah, but it'll come up next year on their budget proposal, right? I mean, they'll be having it as a salary on their budget.
Correct.
So yeah, I agree. It's just for this upcoming year.
Any other discussion on that? Does everyone agree on that as our recommended wording there?
Mm-hmm.
I'm good with that.
Yes.
All right, with that, all those in favor of the motion to approve Article 17? All those opposed? Abstaining? It is unanimous. Article 18, and now we get into the pun intended fireworks. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds, borrow or otherwise provide the sum of $71,500 to purchase and install 2 new boilers for each Fire Station 1 and Fire Station 2, and any costs incidental or relative thereto, or take any other action relative thereto. Before we get to a motion, I will just point out quickly that as of last meeting, when the fire chief spoke to us, the dollar figure on this has changed from 71,500 to 70,000 even.
Yeah, motion to approve for 70,000.
Second.
discussion? Really no discussion on this one.
Take it, Matt. Go.
All right. Well, Greg, you unmuted.
Listen, you saw it.
Feels like there's something coming.
It's so hard for me to keep my mouth shut. So I guess my bigger issue with all of this is that we're voting on something that we know isn't going to be like everything I've been told in this town. That's 10, 20, 30, or 40 years. That's what something goes to. I don't know about the thing that was put across for the new fire station, but I don't know. I mean, my bigger problem with these things is like, do we look for alternatives? Like, this needs a boiler for $71,500, but is there an alternative? Has anybody looked at an alternative, or is it just like, hey, we have a boiler, we need a new boiler? I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't sound like people go really deep. I'm not trying to like put, throw anybody under the bus, but like I don't know. I ask questions like that, and it's usually like, oh, we can't, or no, it's not possible. And again, I don't deal in those terms, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, Greg, I definitely agree, Greg, and you always bring up that great point. So you're right. However, I feel like last week the chief explained himself, right? So they're spending money every single year to repair, and he talked about the downsides of these things not working in the winter.
Yeah.
So I mean, an alternative could be that we can get a used boiler, but I'm not even sure if that's really a thing.
No, I just mean like I asked if it was a heat pump or something, I think last week. Like, there are other things, and a heat pump might be more expensive. My point is, to fix them, does it cost $71,500, right? Does it cost 50? Does it cost 20?
So based off of what
That's about
we
10,000 a year.
Yeah, based off of what the numbers that the chief brought over the last couple of years, it has been, I think it was, I don't have my notes in front of me, but it was between 5,000 and 11,000 a year for each of the last several years.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the dollar value, right? What we can't put a dollar value in is when the boilers go and they have, what is it, 24, maybe 48 hours where there's no heat, and these guys are suffering, wearing 2 or 3 coats. How do you put a dollar value on that, right? I mean, the expectation is that as a town department, they're given the basics, which include heat.
No, I hear you.
Yeah,
again,
Joe,
we're doing away with one of the things, so that's my bigger problem, is that if we're going to do away, or both of them, if we're going to do away with both of them, again, it's just bad timing, I guess.
Yeah, Justin?
That's years away, though. I personally think that the chief undersold the timing. I mean, I think the best case scenario for us to get a new fire station is going to be 5 years, but there's going to be so much fights about that dollar amount until they get everything else. It's going to be way longer than 5 years.
Before we get deep into that, I want to know what Justin was going to say.
Sorry.
That's okay, Russ.
Yeah, no worries. I was just going to point out that at some point, these boilers will be beyond repair. So we might come to a situation, if we don't do this, where the only alternative is to do an emergency replacement anyways. And then we're stuck spending probably more than 70,000 to replace, well, I guess it would be one at a time. The likelihood of both of them going at the same time would be
unlikely.
But, and then if one goes and then we can't replace it for a couple of days, and then one of the pumps freezes, and then the truck has to be repaired. I mean, it just seems like we're adding risk where there doesn't need to be. So to me, it makes sense to do this. But I see, I also am hesitant because of, putting brand new equipment into buildings we don't plan on being in for very long. But then that goes to Russ's point. So, yeah.
Yeah. So to Russ's point that he was bringing up, I don't know what anyone else saw for the reactions to the initial proposal that came out of the committee for the new fire station. but I know the reactions that I saw made that particular proposal and that particular amount something that was not likely to see the light of day. So I think there'll be a lot of work that goes into trying to make that a more palatable proposal. But I also think that the current economic climate makes it so that trying to put any kind of proposal through anytime soon is probably not going to be wise, because I don't think that much will pass in economic times like this. So I agree with Russ that I do think that it's probably at least 5 years off before we're actually seeing a new fire station.
And where did you see that, Matt? Was it the Board of Selectmen meeting?
No, that was, I mean, this was months and months ago. This was before town meeting came out,
Okay.
the proposal for the.
Did we ever actually see the proposal though? I remember reading an article about it, but I don't think we ever saw the actual proposal.
So I know I saw a multi-page document with the proposal and
Yeah.
with like schematics and like architectural drawings and stuff like that. That was still a fairly basic, not super detailed proposal, but it was also very like I believe there was also land acquisition that was involved in that particular proposal, which would take even more time.
Right. That was the one across from the school, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
Do we already have a motion?
We do, yes. We have a motion from Joe,
Okay.
seconded by Russ.
Cool.
Any further discussion on Article 17? Sorry, no, Article 18. We already approved Article 17. Recommended approval. No further discussion. All those in favor of recommending approval of Article 18? All those opposed? Abstaining? With one abstention, it is recommended to be approved. Slightly less fireworks on this one, but another discussion. The Article 19 is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer available funds, borrow, otherwise provide the sum of $10,000 to, which is actually 11,000. I'm
Yeah, okay.
adjusting as I go. To purchase and equip a brush truck for the fire department, with the remainder provided by a grant from FEMA, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen and any other appropriate officials of the town to accept said grant or any forms of financial assistance that may be available to the town on account of this purchase, or take any other action relative thereto. So this is the 5%
FEMA grant.
5% portion of the FEMA grant to provide a approximately $200,000 brush truck for the fire department to replace a very old secondhand brush truck that they are currently using. Any motions?
Motion
Motion
to approve Article 19 at $11,000.
Second.
Second.
Giving that second to Justin because I don't have him on a second yet. Sorry, Joe.
Oh, no worries.
Any further discussion on Article 19? No further discussion. All those in favor of recommending approval of Article 19? All those opposed? Abstaining, there are no abstentions. It is approved. Recommended to be approved, sorry. I catch my wording on those. We're not actually approving things. All right, Article 20, to see if the town will vote to raise, appropriate, etc. funds from the program income account, the sum of $30,000 to pay the remaining balance for paving of the senior center parking lot. Is there a motion for Article 20?
Motion to recommend. I'll give it to Russ.
Second.
Yep. Thank you. Sorry. Is that good, or do you want me to reset it? Say it, Matt.
Oh, that's muted. Hold on. Incoming family.
Sometimes 6-year-olds don't understand.
Oh yeah. No,
When
I
the
got one of those
when the
too.
red light is on.
Yep, I got one of those too.
Apologies.
Always a
Yep. So, sorry, what was the?
Russ said motion to recommend, and I think Barbara
Yes.
seconded.
Russ motion to approve, Barbara with the second. And as we discussed, this is coming from the program income account for the senior center. So this is income that has to be dedicated specifically to senior center, and those type activities. So it is income that needs to be spent on this type of thing. And as we discussed at a previous meeting, the estimate came in lower than what the actual would be because the estimate was for just sort of the top paving, and there needed to be more grading and other lower work that needed to be done to make it something that would actually last. Is there any further discussion on this one?
Yeah, just that, just for the record. So, I mean, it's unfortunate, right? I mean, it would have been nice if like there was some way of saying, we don't know what to expect once we dig into the ground, and then maybe you have an estimate that had this 30,000 as a predictability, but it didn't. Yeah. But the work is done, so we have to pay it.
Yeah, exactly. Any other discussion, comments? About any? All those in favor of recommending approval of Article 20? All those opposed? Abstaining? Sorry, Katie, I didn't catch what your vote was on that one.
Sorry, I wasn't fast enough. I think I was in the approval.
Okay. All right. Articles 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25 are all related to the assessors, all coming from the assessor's office, and are all related to changes in Massachusetts general law that change the baselines for qualification for exemptions that have not been changed for cost of living and inflation for decades at this point, raising the amounts that people need to be underneath to be able to qualify for things, to try and make it more appropriate and more allow people who truly are in need to actually apply and to actually qualify. These are again not really, I mean, they are in a way financial, but they're not really town finance numbers.
Yeah, that's what I was just wondering. So like, if this increases the number of people that can qualify, does the town see a financial impact of that?
I'm not sure if Sue can answer that. It's more of a Sonia question, but.
No, you will see a slight impact on that with the, when we're setting the budget, because, at the bottom where we have other amounts to be provided for, and there's allowance for abatements in there. So right now our allowance for abatement is about $380,000 a year. That's going to go up because of this, but it's estimated to be about $30,000 or $40,000 more than what we normally use. So it's not substantial in the overall budget of it.
Makes sense.
Thanks,
So
Sue.
motion
That's definitely
to
helpful.
recommend those articles in question.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Actually, a motion to. Are we looking to defer to the Board of Assessors in this case, or should we recommend?
We can go. We as a board can go either way on that.
Also, wouldn't it be the selectmen?
No, this one's the Board of Assessors.
Oh, if there's a change in something when they have to do it?
Tax rate.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, so it's the Board of Assessors that set the tax rate, not the selectmen. So it would
Yep.
be, but in my opinion, I do think it does have a financial, even though it's slight, I think it is a financial impact. And
Yeah.
in my opinion, I feel that we should give a recommendation to the townspeople.
Yeah.
Because
So
I agree.
I'll go back to my original motion to recommend Article 22, 23, 24. Is there a 21 as well?
21,
20,
yes. 21,
25.
21 through 25.
All right, 21 to 25.
Second.
Was that Chris with the second?
Yes.
Any discussion? All those in favor of recommending Articles 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25? All those opposed? Abstaining? It's unanimous. All right, getting close, folks. Article 26 is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer available funds, borrow or otherwise provide $12,000 to purchase and equip a greens machine and $18,645 to purchase and install replacement protective netting for the Strawberry Valley Golf Course or take any other action relative thereto. Is there
Motion to approve Article 26.
Sorry, I have a quick question. And I'm sorry if I missed the meeting that it was discussed. I thought that the agreement when the town took over Strawberry Valley was that they had to be self-sustaining.
So just for
Same as senior center.
Yeah, just for rules purposes, can I get the motion in the second?
Oh, can I make a motion to open this for discussion?
Yeah.
Second.
So this money is money that is coming from the Strawberry Valley Golf Course receipts. It's just that with them as a town.
No, Matt.
Oh, no.
It's not coming from their receipts. So
Sorry.
they have 3 open
Sorry.
articles that we approved at the special town meeting, not this past special, but the year before that. So there was a POS system, golf carts, and equipment purchase. So in your motion, I don't know if you want to just put it all together, the prior articles of the special town meeting of 2019. There are 3 articles. If you just say you want to approve that, I'll put the motion together. But the money in those 3 articles that they no longer need, they're going to be using for this project if you guys approve it.
That was what it was. I was forgetting what the discussion had been on that. So
this is funds they have. They're just reallocating it to a new need. It's not extra funds that they're taking from the town.
correct.
Okay.
What?
Whereas I know we already voted on it, but whereas the senior center that's supposed to be self-sustaining, they're taking money from the town funds, not from a senior center pool, correct?
No, theirs is also from a senior center pool.
Okay.
It's from the I'll go back.
It's funds that they raised on their own too.
It's from the program income account. Yep. So
Okay.
funds that they get from their programs and like renting the building and things.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification.
Sorry,
Yep.
it's not quite like that either. So we had a CDBG grant. So it's a community development block grant. So it's to aid the elderly with fixing their homes if they needed to. And if they sell their homes before 20 years, there's a lien on their property and the money goes into what's called a program income account. We can reuse that money to help more elderly, or as long as it's purposed for senior centers and the seniors of the community, we can use that money for those kind of projects. So it's not really money that's raised by the COA, but it's through a grant that we received, and there's certain criteria that you can use the money. If they sell their homes before the 20-year lien period, you can use that money towards certain programs.
So it is senior related monies that can only be spent on senior activities or properties.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
After this one, can we go back to one of them? I don't mean to, I just don't want to lose.
Yep.
I don't want to lose whatever you guys are talking about here.
Yep. So after we discuss 26, I'll bring it to Greg to see if we want to reopen one of the other recommendations. But just real quick, Katie, did that cover it for number 20 for the senior center?
Yes, thank you.
Chris?
If the golf course makes money, we'll call it, where does the excess go at the end of the year? Does it go back to the town, or do they just keep piling it up in their program fund or whatever it's called?
Sue, do you want to explain that one?
Sure. So the enterprise funds that we have, the water, sewer, and golf accounts, if they make money, it's just like the general fund. They get a certified, they don't call it free cash, they call it certified retained earnings, but it's the same thing as free cash. It's money that is available for them to use on capital or reducing rates and things like that.
Okay. All right. But it never goes back to the town.
Not unless it's voted by the town meeting to take X amount of dollars out of their fund for whatever reason, but
Yes.
I've never seen it happen.
So for example, if the town were in dire straits and the golf course had millions of dollars built up in their account, obviously totally hypothetical situation, at a special town meeting such as this, we could have an article on the warrant saying that we would want to transfer money from their account into the town account or for specific purposes. Correct, Sue?
That is correct.
Okay. No, that was just a point of curiosity on my part. Thank you.
Yep. All right, so back to number 26. Katie had motioned to just open it for discussion. Do we have a motion one way or another for Article 26?
Motion to recommend.
We have a motion from Joe and a second from Barbara. Is there any further discussion? Without any, all those in favor of recommending Article 26? All those opposed, abstaining? We've lost Katie, but still unanimous. All right, Greg, what do you want to go back to?
Parking lot.
Yep.
So could you just scroll back up? Just 'cause, yeah.
Rolling back up.
So I guess I get the bigger thing for me is that this is the only thing that I'm getting stuck on. We said to do a specific, or we were told that a specific part of the parking lot was going to be done, and then that turned into a bigger project, right?
No.
No.
So well, sort of. The same portion of the parking lot that was going to be done was being done.
Yep.
What it was determined was that there was sort of, if they just stripped off the existing pavement and laid down new pavement, there were like frost heaves and ground irregularities that would make it so that the parking lot just started to buckle and crack, would start to buckle and crack again right away this winter.
Yep.
So they had to essentially go down further and like drag it and put more of a base down than
Yeah.
what they were expecting to have to do.
Yeah. So, but we said yes to a certain number,
Yes,
and then the number came in higher.
because of the
Yeah. Did we bring in anybody else to when the number needed to be higher? Like, this is the one thing that concerns me when stuff like this happens. If somebody comes in and bids on a job and it's a parking lot that's pretty banged up, which everybody said it was incredibly banged up, like you couldn't walk without falling, wouldn't the contractor who does this for a living know, oh, I don't just need to scrape off an inch? I know the answer is yes. They do know that. So,
Okay, so let me give you an example, like the town hall parking lot. It was the same thing. We are actually going down to the dirt and we were gonna build it up. But when they actually got down to the dirt, there was actual boulders and tree limbs in the ground that we would have never known about if we didn't go down that far. So there's unforeseen things that happened with the town hall. I wasn't involved with the senior center project, but Jack Kane and John Stone were completely on top of the whole thing. So they gave the approval based on once they dug up what was there, and what we based our estimate on was just laying down new pavement. They agreed that you can't leave what's underneath there without pulling it out and doing the job the right way the first time.
all right.
And
No, I understand. So you're saying those two other guys said yes to this 100%?
correct.
yes.
It wasn't just the contractor. We would never allow a contractor to just go ahead and, arbitrarily do a job without speaking and having it approved by the department that's involved with that.
And
Greg, I think the original price came from just an email from Johnstone. So we didn't have like an actual quote from a vendor that said it's going to cost this amount, and then they raised it up. It was just an estimate from John.
but what's the total bill on this?
I think it's 100, right?
30,000.
130.
100. I mean, that's a lot of money for. That's why I'm saying, like, I just don't. Something's just not. Something just doesn't check with me.
Yeah, I definitely I agree with your underlying point, Greg. Yeah, I definitely do, right? Because so I think the challenge is, and this is just total speculation because we're not the ones that did the quote, is that they're trying to win the quote. I'm assuming there were multiple bids, and so they're looking at the top. They're trying to come in at a reasonable amount. But I would agree, and it's just speculation, that they could look at that parking lot and say, there's something wrong underneath here that caused this initial problem in the first place. But they're trying to win the bid. So again, it's just speculation, but they probably knew it was going to be an extra $30,000, but that's not how these, again, being cynical, that's not how these quotes work. And I agree with 100% what you're saying. And they should have said, okay, well, what they could have said was, all right, this is 30,000 more, 30% more than we were expecting. Is there someone else who can do it for $100,000?
Yeah, and that's my bigger concern is that we just said yes to it and did it because I don't know. And again, if these other guys can come in here and explain why, like John Stone or the other guy, I'm sorry, I didn't remember his name. I'd love to hear from him just to understand. I don't know. I mean, why can't we make somebody do the job? Like this is sort of a reoccurring thing that I keep hearing. Like we go to have a job done and then they find more stuff. But like, there's a lot of things that I don't know. I mean, like you're literally digging into the ground. Like this is, you don't need to go further. You don't have to take out those tree limbs and boulders and stuff. I mean, like if we decided to do it, that's fine. But my whole point is why bring up any of this stuff in here if the answer a lot of times is, oh, well, it was more and we had to make a decision right there whether to do it or not. I don't even know why these things come across our board because if the answer is we can just say to do it, then I'm okay with it. My point is, why are we voting on it? My vote for this is the reason that I asked to hear this again is because this is another one of those after the fact things. And I wanted to change my vote to a no because we voted yes on 100,000 and then somebody found that the driveway was the driveway that I was told literally if somebody was walking on it would trip and fall. They found out it was pretty bad. or worse than thought. I don't know. The one that I walked on to go see my kids graduate, and I don't know. I mean, I've been to this place. I just don't understand it.
So, yeah, so Greg, I definitely agree with you on that. And I definitely have concerns about the whole issue of there was a contractor who gave an estimate and was not able to do the job within the estimate.
Can I interrupt?
Please.
Yep.
The contractor didn't give the estimate. The estimate
True.
came from the department heads. We
Right.
have a cooperative bid with Southeastern Regional Services Group and one with Plymouth County. So we used a vendor who already bid out a year ago that X amount of dollars would be spent on the town of Abington to do this kind of work. So he didn't give us the estimate. The contractor was just on the bid list that was a low bidder, and he came in and said, this is the job that, we said, this is the job that we want you to do. And when they pulled up the pavement, they said, well, when they pulled up a part of the pavement, they said, we won't put our name on this job if you don't see X, Y, and Z needs to be repaired. You'll have to find another contractor. So they didn't say, we're doing this for more money. They said, we won't do the job if you don't do it right. We don't want our name on this job.
Yeah, so just to
Is
kind of
this job
clarify
already
that
done?
point, it is.
It is.
Right,
So we've
it's
already
already done.
So
spent
correct me if I'm
money.
wrong. When they said that, Jack Kane and John Stone then reviewed it and approved doing it at the higher price. Correct.
That is correct.
Just for
So-
a finer
So if
point, right?
we-
It wasn't like they dug the ground up and said, oops, we see this being an issue. Before they even did any work, they said, this is a problem. And for me to do it, it's going to be a total of 130. Is that correct?
That is correct. So then
Okay.
at that point, it was approved that, well, it needs to be done. So they already were the lowest bidder on the job. So it didn't make any sense to go out to somebody else who's going to say, well, it's going to cost you more because now I'm not the lowest bidder. So the work is bid out every year for paving, line striping, curbings. There's a whole slew of things that's bid out on a contract once a year, and the lowest bidder gets the work, and they got the work based on that contract that was signed. Some of them are in January, some of them are in July. So some of them are fiscal and some of them are calendar, but they're already the lowest bidder, and we use these people, and I don't blame the guy for not wanting to put his name on a job that's going to look unpresentable a year from now. And then we're like, oh, the contractor did the work. He doesn't want his name out there as doing bad work.
So,
Isn't that him
So
right
if we vote not to,
go ahead, Justin.
if we vote not to approve, what happens? Because we've already spent the money. So then that means there's no money to pay the vendor. Like, how does that work?
I was about to say, essentially what we are voting on for Article 20 is the source that the extra $30,000 comes from and where that is. So essentially, and Sue, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the timeline is that we, as in the town of Abington, provided an estimate for this. Our estimate when the vendor came in to do the work was below what the cost needed to be to do the job correctly. The department heads looked at the vendor's estimate, determined that they were then approving what needed to be done for that. The vendor did the work, and we need to determine where from the town's income that money comes from that was not already specified at a previous town meeting.
Do we know if they, originally came back and said, hey, we need 50 grand more, and then we negotiated down to 30? Or did they just say we need 30 grand more, and we just said, okay? I don't know if we have that information, but
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, I'm gonna go with that.
What was that, Chris?
I said, I'm going to go with your second one.
Yeah, Greg is going to assume they did not try to barter.
But
It
again,
just feels a little arbitrary.
This is my point. Like, if we're saying that we understand that the guy doesn't want to put his name on it, wouldn't that be him backing out of a contract?
He never made any.
Yeah, he didn't quote it.
Made a bid.
I guarantee you he quoted this 100% before he dug into the ground. If
Not
somebody
as
say that,
not as Sue described it, right? It's like
it's essentially a standing contract for the year with the town.
Not with amount. Doesn't have amounts.
Correct.
it wasn't
A blank.
all right, this is getting worse by the minute.
John Stone underestimated the cost. In fact, they underestimated even more because originally $100,000 was supposed to pay for fixing the doors of the senior center as well as the parking lot. But after Justin and I talked, we ended up with just the parking lot.
Yep.
Right. And was there like a grant or something also involved with doors or something?
That was the roof grant. We paid for part of the parking lot with part of that money.
So part of the 100,000 came from a grant that they had received.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just so difficult to. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, no, Greg, I understand.
Both people signed off on this. I don't know if that's 100%, but if we're saying both these people signed off on this, to say, yeah, just do the extra $30,000 on this thing that, again, I've talked to people in the town. I don't know if this was the worst parking lot of the history of parking lots that had to be done. So I don't know if we're saying that everybody signed off and said we're doing, I just don't, that doesn't sound, for some reason, that doesn't sound right to me.
Yeah, and I think some of the challenges, and I totally agree with you, Greg. I think some of the challenges is that we're falsely trying to equate the normal operating procedures of a private business with that of a government agency, right? They don't do this. They don't follow the same processes, right? If you wanted your parking lot redone, you'd have tons of people come in and say, how much is this parking lot going to cost me? And if someone came in more, you'd have plenty of grounds to say, you know, I'm not paying anymore. I asked you to quote it. You quoted this. You're doing it for this amount. It sounds like, if I understand correctly, is that there was kind of just like this, you know, who wants to work on parking lots? Should we need parking lots? There was an estimate not by the actual contractor to say, we think it's going to be about $100,000, which originally included the doors. That got dialed back. The guy actually shows up and says, I can't do this for $100,000 now that I see it.
I think
So
too.
it's almost backwards, if I understand it.
I think
but
too.
so at that point, you come back to the finance committee before doing the job, right?
That's all I'm saying in this whole. Again, I'm not great at speaking. All I'm saying is just why isn't this just talked about? Like I've told Matt, like, I'm annoyed sometimes when I sit here because I'm like, well, why am I sitting here? Why did I waste the time, whatever day it was that we said to do $100,000 on this thing? And then it turns into 130, and then it sounds like we really didn't put this out to bid. And I've been told we put everything out to bid. So it sounds like we put out some sort of construction guy out to bid, or some theory of construction we may do out to bid, and somehow the guy bid and he was the lowest bid on no construction. I don't even understand. So I couldn't be more confused. We just think about what was just said, that we put out to bid a yearly construction thing that doesn't have anything on it, and he was the lowest.
So
is it just like an hourly?
I don't know if Sue can provide more detail on that, but I do.
It's a low bid per ton or per square yard. I mean, again, Greg, you want to come into my office, I'll show you some of the contracts. It's basically, we want asphalt. What's your bid for asphalt? And it's by I think it was like $95 a ton or something like that, you
Yep.
know, and if we want line striping and it's by how many miles of line striping that you want to fill. And so we just say what we expect for the year to have done, and they give us a price on what that is. Not us. We have a company that actually does the bidding paperwork for us for the highway department, DPW road stuff. And she's very diligent. She sends everything back to the towns. We have to say, yep, that's the lowest bid. She sends all of the bidders in, and you know, the town manager signs off on, we agree with the work you've done. And now if we need you for those services, you are the low bidder, you're the one who has those services. And again, like you said, Greg, to your point is, well, why didn't you guys come back to the finance committee before you finished the job or before you did the job? Well, we're in the middle of a project and we're supposed to stop that until you guys can all meet a week or 2 weeks later. You can't, you're gonna close
And we
down a project
I recommend
for,
have to call a town meeting so that's the bigger issue is the difference between government and private business is private business can call a board meeting. For government, we would need to call a town meeting.
So
so basically what I'm saying is you have to trust your department heads that they're making the right decision on the moment, because that's what we're getting paid to do. And they're not, you know, it's not like it's their buddy that's doing the work for them. It's been contracted out through a company, or if I were to go out to do a bid, like for example, the police station siding, it's bid out, and whoever gets the lowest responsible bid gets the job. So we're doing the best we can with the resources that we have, and sometimes the resources that we have, we have to go outside and we have to make the decision to move on a project, and hope that you guys understand that we moved on that project with the best possible knowledge that we had, and the best ability to get that job done for the better of the town. And that's every department head all the way around. I don't think that anyone is trying to squander the town's money. They're doing their best on the moment.
Oh,
So,
no,
Sue, Greg, hang on.
Somebody's squandering, just so everybody's clear.
So, Sue, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but my guess and my assumption would be that when the department head, and in this case John, was reviewing this, it would be something where if he's looking at it and saying that this is something that's going to come in at $500,000 over what was expected, he would appropriately put the brakes on it and look at other sources. But if it's something that he believes, or that you believe, or that the specific department head believes, or they talk to you about, that we have the money within somewhere else within the budget to cover, that it would be something that they would use their judgment on going ahead with, but that it wouldn't be just sort of unlimited that they would go ahead with.
So my bigger problem is who got this job?
To be honest with you, I don't know the name of the company off the top of my head, but I can get that information for you.
Wasn't it just done? Yeah, I just have, so X company, when stuff like this happens, half the parking lot's dug up. Hey, it's going to be more. There's whatever, I don't know, rocks. Even though you
they didn't dig it up.
Even though they didn't dig it up.
No, my understanding as it was described was that before they did a single hour of work, they said, this is a problem.
Yeah, from the way Sue described it, it was before they did the job.
Just listen to that for a second. Before I took out that wall, I knew it was going to be more expensive.
No, I think they looked at the job. They assessed the job. know when they, when they get the bid to do the work for the town, they don't know what jobs they're going to be looking at. And
No, I know.
so they, and,
Just imagine somebody coming into your house and being like, you wanted I don't know, a new wall put in. They look and they go,
Yeah,
but
that's the,
that wall's gonna be more.
So Greg, I think a more
yeah,
accurate analogy with the house would be if you're estimating, hey, I've got 15 grand to redo my downstairs bathroom.
Yeah.
And you get like 5 different people come in. Let's go with that rather than just the one person. But you get 5 different people come in and the lowest bid on it is 20 grand.
Yeah.
Your initial estimate was off. That doesn't mean that so you then have to make the decision, are you going to go ahead and redo the bathroom even though it's going to cost more than what your initial estimate was? And as Sue was saying, that decision in this case was put on the department head. Because it was the department head that did the.
There's always the choice. There's always the choice of calling people up and saying you could pay 15 grand for it. That's what I mean. Like,
as Sue explained, in this particular instance, the town has a contract. Our asphalt services are through this particular company that's bid out on a yearly basis through Plymouth County. So the town doesn't have the same options and resources that you have as a private citizen doing work on your own, on your home, or that you would have as a private business.
yeah, and essentially it was done, to your point, Greg, to take your analogy, it was really done potentially backwards, right? It wasn't like we said, hey, we want to find out what it's going to cost us so we can budget properly for the parking lot. Let's get people to come in and give us their bids. It was really the other way around. It was, we are going to say, we think it's going to cost $100,000. That gets lumped into a pool of potential contract work for a contractor over a particular year based on some, as I understand it, based on some generic explanation of work to be done. Asphalt work, right? Not this particular parking lot, just asphalt work. And someone comes in and says, well, if it's asphalt work, I can give you whatever your unit of measure is, this amount, and then they win the contract, right? They have no idea it's the senior center parking lot. They said, okay, well, here's the senior center parking lot. We're going to give you $100,000 to do it. And now they show up and say, that's not enough money. I mean, I can't do it for $100,000. I'll lose my shirt. And then now that decision has been made to say, is the town going to pay the $30,000? So I agree what you're saying, but I don't think it falls on the contractor. It's not the contractor's fault. They've already won a bid for this generic thing called asphalt, and now they're being told you got to do this particular job for $100,000, and they can't do it.
Yeah.
So I think in this particular scenario, the areas that we need to work on improvement moving forward. As for this particular article, we're really just looking at what the funding source that the extra money that's already been spent needs to be paid out of. But for future, I think one place where we should have been better, as Joe was saying, was in making sure that we had them come and look before we actually put an article on town meeting in the spring with the amount on it for this. If we had them come out and look at that first, then we would have had a more accurate estimate for that to begin with. The other area is understanding better the process when something does come in that's over, and sort of where the threshold is, or where the department head would either put the brakes on it or would come to the finance committee or to town meeting for something, rather than continuing with a project that they know is running over cost.
Matt, to that point, going forward into the future, this is a perfect example of situation where a town planner,
Yep.
It's something we're missing. So, Greg, like you were saying, it's like there's too much separation between who's doing what. There's not. I think that's,
And by the way, I'm not saying we don't need a town planner, but this is literally, in my opinion, one of those things where the person comes in and they're like, I can't do it. And you go, all right, awesome. Go to the next guy. What if the next guy would have said he would have done 110?
But I think the issue is you can't, because you've already contracted that
Right.
particular vendor to do your asphalt work. They already won the bid. So again, it feels backwards. I understand the frustration, Greg. I share it with you, but you know we're trying to apply your individual options and choices of how you would do things with government contracts, and it's
everything goes out to bid. That's why I'm not understanding this. Like,
So not everything goes out to bid. So for example, we talked with Johnstone when he was in, and we talked about the striper that I called a stripper and things like that. Things like that, when they are purchasing something, it goes out to bid. Most of the jobs go out to bid, but this because it falls into one of these special, unique areas related to the DPW, where it's specific work. The type of work goes out to bid for the year in advance, but the specific job doesn't go out to bid. It's like the building inspector has contracts with plumbing inspectors and gas inspectors and stuff. He doesn't go out to bid for the plumbing inspection of each individual building. He has people that he's contracted with to do that. So we have a company who we are contracted with for the year for asphalt services.
so can I just give this one example and somebody tell me if it would happen, yes or no? Only because I think if you take things to the most minimal and the most extreme, you get the real answer. So this happened, everything happened, the guy comes in and all right, we got to do this, we have $100,000, and he's like, oh my God, no, it's going to be $500 million. Do we pay the bill?
No.
All right, so what's
and so as I said, Greg, in that instance, the department head uses their judgment and says, we don't have this money, there's no way. So we're not moving forward with that project.
The department
head. This is where Sue was talking about we need to have at least some level of faith in the department heads to do their job and to know which things they can and which things they cannot move forward with.
What department head?
So in this instance, the department head was the DPW head. It was Johnstone.
Just to interject here, I know this is a long going conversation, but Greg, we are forming a capital plan committee, and it might be in your best interest to join us so you can help us make these decisions before we make these decisions. So we're looking for 2 members of the finance committee to be part of the capital planning committee. So before see, I do too.
I second that nomination.
So before it even gets to town
Werther's,
meeting,
we
we have a better understanding of what we're looking for.
I'm in if there's Werther's.
I'll get them for you. I'll have a whole bag.
I'll bring them if you need to. I'll be the second person and bring them if that's what gets you on that.
All right, so you'll have more answers before. You've asked a lot of great questions over the years about our capital projects and our capital expenditures, but now you can be part of the before it gets to the town meeting warrant.
Yeah, sure. I'm good.
That sounds great, Sue.
Good with it. You just tell me when and where.
I will.
So my question after all of that is, do we want to reopen our vote on Article 20, recommending it, knowing that essentially at this point, the purpose of Article 20 is to determine where that money comes from, not whether or not that money gets spent.
I do not want to reopen it.
If the only thing is me changing mine to a no, if you can do that and make it much easier on everybody, that'd be awesome.
I will reopen it so that Greg can vote no. Russ and Barbara, are you willing to You had the motion and the second. Are you willing to reopen?
Yeah, motion to reopen Article 20 for
Greg to vote no.
Greg to vote no.
So Russ motions to
Second.
reopen. Barbara seconds. All those in favor of reopening Article 20? It's reopened. With that, is there a motion to approve Article 20 or to recommend Article 20?
Motion to approve Article
Motion to
20.
recommend.
So now from Barbara and then Justin. Any further discussion? Without any, all those in favor of approving Article 20, recommending Article 20? All those opposed, Greg? There you go. And it is, the vote has changed.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. The only other thing I'd say, and sorry for having one more thing to say about it, is that every single warrant comes across our committee. So let's use this as a lesson learned, right? We did not ask these questions last time, right? So Greg has brought up some tremendously great points. I totally agree with them. Let's learn next time to ask these questions.
Excellent point, Joe. All right. With that, we can now move down to Article 27, which is to see if the town will vote to raise, appropriate, transfer from available funds, borrow, or otherwise provide the sum of $416,487 to supplement the fiscal year 21 school department budget for unforeseen cost in reopening schools and anything incidental or relative thereto, or take any other action relative thereto. Is there a motion for Article 27?
Motion to
Motion to
recommend.
approve.
A motion
Sorry.
to recommend from Joe. Is there a second?
Second.
So for discussion on this, I'll lead off the discussion. As discussed, we're splitting up the money that is essentially the overestimated money from the state aid. This would be the school's percentage breakdown of the approximately $600,000 that is left after covering the shortfall in local receipts estimates.
Again, I'm really not trying to be picky, and I'm not a lawyer, but like anything incidental,
So essentially what this article does, Greg, is it just hands $416,487 to the school department for this year's budget for whatever they see fit, essentially.
It's essentially an approval to reallocate now that we have the final numbers.
Keep in mind that they did do almost $1 million worth of cuts to their FY21 budget in order to meet that 10% cut.
Yep.
And part of it was also out of a grant, almost $600,000 out of a grant that they were shifting around. So this is really not to supplement their budget. It's to try to bring their budget back up to where their initial request should have been. And it's not even close to what they cut their budget by.
And that
So-
$600,000, that grant is still going to come.
Increase of their budget.
Sorry, Barbara first, then Chris. Sorry.
I just wanted some clarification, Sue. As I remember, that 600,000 from that grant, we're going to have to come up with that going forward.
That's correct. So that, for the most part, they're trying to say that now they're going to use the grant for not really what it was intended to. It's not like they were trying to, not use it for what it was intended to, but they were able to maybe shift some expenses into there because of COVID. But this will help them keep that grant whole and backfill their budget that they cut.
Okay, Chris?
I agree with the whole thing. It's just that it's the words, the budget they cut. I just want to point out that it was an increase from the previous year, and they cut down the amount of the increase.
Yep.
That was in the fiscal year.
Yeah, it was cuts during the budget process. Let's put it that way. So from where we were at when we had a almost finalized budget right before COVID and lockdown struck to where we ended up with the voted on budget at town meeting.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at semantics.
Yep. Nope. I'm there with you. And Greg, just as a point on this to your initial question about it, one of the things that they did talk about when we talked with them about those changes that they were making to their budget to bring it down to fit our request for 10% drop in state aid, was that they were expecting that there would be fallout from the things they were taking out of their budget, both within this year, but more so within coming fiscal years, having to purchase things that they are cutting out spending on this year. So this may save us spending this money now, having to purchase other things in future years.
Let's take that whole paragraph and somehow chronicle it for next year.
Yes.
Because I'm going to go with no. And I'm not even trying to redo what you just said,
Yep.
or not redo, fight what you're saying. It's just, to Chris's point, that's why I was asking. And the wording is just weird. Why doesn't it just say for the school department budget? Period. Again, I'm not a lawyer.
So it says
for unforeseen
it says
costs
to supplement the school department budget for unforeseen costs in reopening schools and anything incidental or relative thereto or related thereto.
Right.
So basically, you wanted to just say that it's supplementing the budget.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
the only reason that
if you can see,
I'm not even trying to be picky. I'm just like, why?
So if you can see what I have highlighted there, I think basically Greg wants to take that out.
That's fine.
And again, I'm not a lawyer, so you guys do what you need to do on the law side. But
I mean, so like, do you want it to say to supplement the budget due to prior cuts? Or, I mean, so you don't want to just say you're supplementing the budget. I mean, they obviously lost something during these cuts from the state that we were expecting. So you don't want to say, well, we're just giving them money, So how can we word it so that it makes it sound like we're making them whole again, or not even whole, partially whole?
So would we want to say something to the effect of to supplement the school department budget, bringing it closer to original projections for fiscal year 21? Something to that effect.
Original requests?
Yeah, maybe.
That's actually less restrictive than what's here.
Okay.
It is.
That's fine.
So, technically what's here is not restrictive at all, because we're saying or take any other action.
Right.
So.
I was reading the unforeseen costs for reopening.
Yeah, but we're then saying and anything incidental or related. So we're really not restricting anything with the wording that's on this.
But you kind of, I get Greg's point that he doesn't want to say it's not unforeseen costs. It's costs that we were going to have, but we had to cut the budget.
Right.
So something about returning X amount to the budget due to cuts or something. I don't know.
due to cuts related to
So I'll come up with a
COVID-19.
couple of different scenarios and send it out to Matt, and he can forward it to you guys, and we can finalize that the way we want it, but
Yep.
definitely that's the dollar amount that we're gonna be voting on.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
And I think we can put in our motion and our recommendations what the specifics of the wording that we're looking for are.
And Matt, you can give an explanation too.
Yep, absolutely. So the question really for us, for the committee, is do we want to hand this money over to the schools at this for the rest of fiscal year 21? That's what we're voting on for this particular article.
And do we still, just you guys deal with the schools, and Sue, maybe you're the best one. Are we continuing to grow? Are we continuing to add more students to the school system here?
Yes.
It's good.
Yeah, I don't know what the numbers are this particular year, but at least as of the last update that we got from them, the numbers continued to grow. We did have a large class graduate. I think the last 2 classes that graduated have been large classes. They're the year 2000 and year 2001 babies, and there were a lot of people had babies those years, myself included. But I think some of the classes coming up were smaller than those, but overall the school has definitely been growing. I think the number of people coming back into the school district with the new school is starting to level off, but that wasn't going to go up every year no matter what. So
More staying because of a new school too, I think.
yep, staying, less people going to, so we initially definitely saw less people going to private school, less people going to South Shore Votech, and we're starting to see those numbers kind of stabilize. But we definitely are seeing still an increase in the population of the town, so an increase in school children as well. So any further discussion on Article 27? All right, all those in favor of the motion to recommend Article 27? All those opposed, abstaining, it is unanimous. Article 28 is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds, borrow or otherwise provide the sum of $22,000 to fund a settlement agreement for an injured employee or take any other action relative thereto. Look for a motion on this.
Motion to recommend.
Justin and Joe, when you want to second it?
Second.
So again, this is a settlement from an employee who was injured while working for the town. Settlement has been reached. We just need to provide the funds for it. So in this case, Sue, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is being funded out of that 600,000 or the 1.2 million in state aid that we were not expecting to receive, correct?
That is correct. Although he's already been paid out, so if
Right.
you guys don't approve it, it gets raised on the recap under settlement agreements, judgments from the court sort of thing. So the agreement required him to be paid out within 30 days. So again, he has been paid. So if
Yep.
you don't take this route, it gets raised on the recap.
Any further discussion on Article 28? All right, all those in favor of recommending Article 28? All those opposed? Joe's opposed? Or you were delayed? Joe's approving, all right. All those abstaining, it is unanimous. All right, Article 29 is we discussed previously. I'm not going to read the whole one, but this is establishing an affordable housing trust. We had already voted on in a previous town meeting or budget. I can't remember which it was, but this was, there was money set up to be in an affordable housing trust. This is just the process of setting up the actual trust itself.
Motion to approve Article 29. Recommend approval of Article 29.
Second?
Motion from Barbara, second from Russ. For approval, is there any discussion on Article 29? Without any, all those in favor of recommending approval for Article 29? All those opposed, abstaining, it is unanimous. And the last article, the first Article 30, and it will be the only Article 30, as the second Article 30 we dealt with transfers last week, is to see if the town will vote to amend Section 5-1-1 of the town charter relative to the appointment terms of the police chief. This is just setting it so that the town manager and new hired police chief agree upon a term, and it's not just a indefinite agreement. And it's just wording, so not really a financial implication to this one, other than
Going forward.
yes, for
Yeah,
future.
there's no financial, but I would motion to recommend only because being a citizen of the town.
Yep.
Second.
So motion from Joe, a second from Barbara. Any further discussion? Without any, all those in favor of recommending Article 30? All those opposed? Chris, was that opposed or was that delayed?
Favor.
Favor, okay. All those abstaining, it is unanimous. And that takes us through all of the warrant articles. So
Matt, real quick, sorry.
Yeah.
What was the wording? What was the wording? Because didn't we just replace? Aren't we replacing the police chief?
We are replacing the police chief. The wording in the previous article was essentially that the police chief's contract did not have any kind of term. There was no, it was just, you're the police chief until either you decide not to be or you get fired. And this is just saying that the police chief, when a police chief is hired, the town manager and the police chief will agree upon a term. And the police chief can be renewed at the end of that term and agree upon another term, but it's just saying that there will be a term. It's not just essentially a forever job.
So two questions. So again, sorry, I wasn't paying attention, but not as much as I should have been.
That's okay.
This doesn't sound like something we should be voting on, if you ask me.
So this is essential to me. This is more something that the potential financial implication of this is really more of a town manager thing or a board of selectmen thing, but there is a potential financial impact as if we go up to, let me find it again, Article 16. Take me a while because there are long articles in here. As you can see, we have a very large buyout package with the chief. The terms of a contract being more indefinite can lead to much larger buyout packages. But
that's what we're putting this on right there.
And so,
and just so you know, that's not the total buyout package, just what
right,
we need to cover.
correct. That's just the part that is not covered in the buyout package for the police chief.
So even in that last article, it's a charter change. So it gets approved at town meeting, but it either has to go through legislation or it has to go through the next election to be approved at ballot as well.
So question on it. I think Greg's question is a good one. Is this something that we should be providing as a finance committee specifically a recommendation on, or should we be deferring to the town manager or to the board of selectmen?
I would think you would defer it to the Board of Selectmen. There's nothing financial there other than the terms of his contract, whether it's indefinite or, 3 years to 5 years or whatever. So it really, there's no financial impact.
But if it is a way to save having these buyouts at the end.
So there, I mean, obviously for any contract, say for example, it ends up being a 3-year contract, and then the next chief is renewed after 3 years and keeps, like, say the chief gets renewed 10 times, the buyout will still probably be similar to what we're seeing with the chief right now. But it definitely provides a little bit more protection for the town in having terms and having that. But it is largely not a financial article.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any way we can redo this and give it to somebody else.
Greg, do you want to make a motion to reopen Article 30?
Sorry, can we make a motion to reopen Article 30?
Second.
Motion and a second to reopen. All those in favor of reopening Article 30? Opposed, abstaining, it's reopened. Is there a new motion for Article 30?
I would say in the past, we have given our, maybe not a recommendation, but a sense of the meeting, how the finance committee feels about it after having heard all of the information, because that's what the townspeople expect us to do, is get all of the information, weigh all the pros and cons, and look at all of it and kind of give our opinion. So yep. I feel like it would be a positive thing to, having gone over the information, to give some type of a sense of the meeting or opinion from the finance committee.
So would the committee as a whole agree that it would make sense for us to defer, but that in the motion to make our deferral that I provide our approval, our sense of approval for this article?
Or even just that we feel that it is a positive
that there is a positive impact for the town with this article.
Yeah.
But that's not definite, correct?
Correct. It's not definite, but we feel that there could be a positive impact for the town.
With the change in that one sentence.
Yes, it's subjective, right?
Yeah.
Either you feel like it's helpful or it's not, and now's your chance to vote. I think as a citizen of Abington, I would like to have at least my expression that I think it should be changed. And I totally get it, Greg. If you're like, this is just dumb, I don't want to have it, I totally support you saying no.
Yeah, no, I like the sentence. I just think it has nothing to do with money, or it could have something to do with money, but so could every sentence.
Yeah, that's why we're voting to defer to the town manager, and then just this finance committee, which is made up of Abington citizens, we'd like to express our support of it.
Yeah, I have no issue with that.
That's a good terminology. We're deferring, however, we'd like to express our support, if that's what everyone's feeling.
Sounds good to me.
Yep, I agree with that.
I think based on our 7-0 vote on it the first time around, I think we have a pretty solid sense of our support. So,
yeah.
Is there a motion to defer?
Motion to defer.
Greg makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motionless.
All right. Any further discussion? Without any, all those in favor of deferring to the town manager? Wait, there it is, Justin. All right. All those opposed, abstaining, it is unanimous. All right, that takes us through. Do we have any liaison reports?
I don't.
I don't.
And we do not have correspondence. I do not have minutes to review. Our next meeting is scheduled for next week. It should be relatively short based on what we've done here, just some cleaning up of language possibly, and making sure that we've got, that there's nothing that we need to reopen. With that, before I accept any further motions, I would like to just very quickly wish our committee member Joe Rojas a happy 20th wedding anniversary.
Oh, thank you, Matt.
Great.
Congratulations, Joe. Happy anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It only feels like 50.
And
I jest. I jest.
I totally understand.
Yeah, my wife just heard me in the background.
You're in trouble.
I'm at town record now.
She should take that and then, I don't know how you do it, but like clip it out and play it to you every year.
I'm sure she will. It'll be on YouTube. It'll be on YouTube, so I'm sure she can do that.
Whoa,
oh,
Wow, I don't know what happened there.
that was awesome.
All right, are there any further motions or discussion points?
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn in a second, which I'm actually not sure we need the second, but we have a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? That is all. We are adjourned. Thank you all. See you next week.
See ya.